Hello, Mr. Red tree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. We find ourselves here again a year on with the slow train to our adoption of the committee system. If we go back to the meeting last year when the report came forward with lots of proposals for looking at various types of hybrid cabinet arrangement and other things, the committee took the decision to move forward and to take, so the council then took a full decision in January, led by the leader of the council who was arguing the case, and I think everybody, all of the motions and amendments put forward actually supported the core proposal to return to a system of committees. It's been 4 council meetings since then and 6 months, and nothing has come to this committee. And then I was surprised and delighted to see in this report something called a project to take this matter forward. I could go through the document. There's a lot of things which I found really annoying and quite offensive, and I'm going to pass on that. The main curiosity I have with the report, aside from the fact it seems that somebody thinks in this current environment spending £100,000 on consultation for a decision that the council's already taken seems a bit kind of strange. I think, as Mr. Dix pointed out, I think there should be open meetings. The business should come to this committee as much as possible, so that members of the public can engage in a cheap and easy way. They can just roll up and ask their questions. I'm concerned, going back to the actual resolution of the council on page 15 of the report, the final paragraph says, ask officers and the Constitutional Appropriate and its Commission put forward proposals to enable an early approval of such change to commence operationally from the annual meeting 2014. When we go back to the timetable on page 10, it looks like the actual decision, the binding resolution of this authority to move to a committee system is not going to be taken until, in this particular report, until the 8th of April 2014, which is not only right in the election period, which is especially, obviously, the officers also call for cross-party working, and having seen this electoral cycle go through 1 month before the elections is probably not the best time for cross-party working. So I'm going to stop there. I would ask the committee to consider taking the irrevocable decision, so the 5-year decision, to move to the committee system as soon as possible, if the next council meeting, or if not, that afterwards, so that everybody is clear where we are going. There's going to be no attempt to redefine what actually the benefits or disbenefits of this is. I think that decision has been taken by members, and I think officers should come forward with proposals as to how to implement that, and not necessarily re-argue the case, which is what I think this report does. Thank you, Chairman.
For your information, officers have been instructed to produce a working plan, not to speculate or otherwise about the merits or otherwise, and you'll also hear very shortly that this timetable has been truncated. Your point is well made, and it has been noticed, and you will see that when we come to the item, there will be significant changes to the timetable. Come to that item in a moment.
I guess that was the question someone answered.
No, that's not the question. For your information, so you finished.
Thank you so much. Stop talking.
Can I ask a question as a former councillor who's an anorak about our constitution as well? It was intended as a compliment actually, but were we unable to develop a new constitution in the time, would it actually, in your view, be conceivable that we just re-adopt the old standing orders?
I think there are 2 questions. The one decision, I think you're absolutely right. The decision that needs to be taken is the one that formally moves us to a committee system. As with scrutiny, as Councillor Finn and Councillor Schneiderman and Cohen and Alison will know, we've changed and messed around with a number of committees and procedures, year after year after year. That's something the council can change at any one time. In fact, the officers can correct me if I'm incorrect on this, the actual full document of the Constitution could actually be adopted at the annual council meeting 2014 as the second item of business after the election of the mayor, if that was necessary to bring in the new system, as the new system only takes effect from the annual council meeting. I don't have that to be corrected, but the actual details, as your dear friend and ward colleague Councillor Coleman said to the council meeting, this has already been done by other people. Other councils have made this move. We could adopt old standing orders or actually take other people's, and we can tweak them as we go through. That's what we've done over the years, and that's what we should do.
Sorry, thanks.
Councillor, have a question?
Well, I'm interested to know what old standing orders, I'm not sure, standing orders regularly change, but going back to old standing orders, I don't know exactly what standing orders, old ones, but I wanted to ask Mr. Hope, what do you think the best way of engaging the public in the change to the governance system is?
So, if I'm being serious, I actually think, we've all seen area forums in the past where a well-meaning officer has come along to meet a large crowd of people very upset about broken paving stones and tried to engage them in the matter of new planning policy and seen the whole room with glazed eyes. I think those people who actually have an interest in this matter, if this committee meets, and as I said in my speech, as I said before, I'm very much opposed to the recent practice of private officer meetings, members meeting behind closed doors, because that stops the public from actually engaging. And as we saw with the last big changes to the Constitution recently, it all came in a very big bundle with no sign of the changes. Members of the public who wanted to engage in that process, it was impossible because they didn't know what was going on. And having area forums and public meetings is very good. But if this committee meets regularly, has the business, does the work which it has done in the past, discusses the boring thing line by line, members of the public can come here, no cost to the council, and engage as fully on as the case. But as regards to standing orders, we already have the standing orders because we have committees, we have planning committees, we have area environment committees. They are executive committees, and they retain the old working of the other service committees. So we just need to pass them over. The only decision we need to take is whether or not the executive of this authority is the cabinet, or the executive of this authority is the full council.
Yeah, well, what other committees do you think we should have? Planning environment, that's fine, but I presume the decision needs to be taken about what the actual new committee structure will be.
But the decision is that at the moment the cabinet organises itself in a certain way. It organises itself in a very different way in the past. There used to be a politics cabinet, there used to be cabinet ICT. You just choose how you're going to organise yourself, and any administration will be able to decide how many committees it has. And like the scrutiny, when we've had at one point 14 or so scrutiny committees, one for each cabinet portfolio and a couple more. Now we've gone down to a much smaller number. This is just, these are subjective groups, subjective decisions for you as members to decide, if you indulge in the public, as to which way you want to run the council. There's no hard and fast rule, and it's just a subjective decision for you to take.
Are there any more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dix. We're taking all the public comments So this summarises the approach to be taken in deciding the alterations to the Constitution. It is envisaged that this process will be iterative, working through the options available. The focus of this review is to ensure that the changes that have occurred since the adoption of the executive cabinet model in terms of the economic situation nationally and the commissioning model locally be recognised. 7 other councils have recently moved to either a hybrid or a committee system of governance. It's therefore important that members consider the learning from these organisations and develop the Barnet model with those models in mind within their working group. This group review needs to be less about structure and generally about embedding a new culture of governance that focuses on transparency, accountability, inclusivity and engagement, durability and flexibility. Also within that model, it is agreed that any changes in governance is cost neutral. Page 9 refers to the overall timetable which defines the member meetings and high-level milestones. We also have agreed previously through council comments and questions that the final product will be delivered by January, the January Council 2014. The committee are asked to comment on the business case, and after that discussion, endorse the business case on the basis of future work. Thank you.
Through the chair, I may, I'm going to have some committee.
Well, say so.
No, I think I've done notes from my colleagues, and I will obviously be taking part in the meeting.
Yeah. Can I just clarify something that Mr. Hope raised, that's the status of the original decision taken to move the committee system. My recollection is that when we questioned the timetable at that stage, the concerns were raised, well, have we actually taken a decision? But the first question is, have we taken a decision that is now binding? Or is it possible to come at a later council meeting and someone says, well, we've looked at the proposals and it's not going to work there, we'll stick what we have. Is that decision principle binding, yes or no?
No, it's not binding until we go back to the full council with the proposals.
Okay. Second point, rising out. It's my recollection that when we moved to the cabinet system, we didn't have a business plan. We sat down, talked about it, and came up with a system that wasn't perfect. Well, for me it wasn't, the system itself would work, right? But we got on with it. And I'm worried that this is something that is so complicated, and made complex, that at the end of the day, none of us will really understand what's being proposed. And when you don't understand what's being proposed, very often it doesn't happen. So I am concerned that this seems to be something that's, from the very beginning, officer-led. When you said it should be member-led, it's actually been officer-led from the very beginning. You're setting the timetable, you're setting the parameters, and you're setting a budget and all kinds of use of language which I don't understand. I've been in the council a long time. So if I don't understand it, then how residents can understand it. I'm really worried that this is not going to happen. And I want some reassurance that
I can assure you that it will happen. I think what the proposal is all about is putting in what you want as outcomes and then stating how those outcomes then delivered by the end of the project. I think all this is trying to put it into layman's terms and actually say what we actually have to deliver. Things cost money, they're not going to happen by themselves. And actually, it needs your comments in order to progress and then to approve the working group in order for members to take those decisions and within the Constitution, Ethics and Probity Committee and then ratified by full council. This is not an officer-led project. This is for members to decide and take forward.
Jack, it is member-led, I can assure you.
Thank you for that.
And you have that assurance. And the bones, the detail is going to be worked out by you, Alison, either council, myself, and one or two other people. That's where the work will be done. And then we can go to members to agree or to go to pieces of the case may be legal.
Can I just endorse what Councillor Cohen has said? I mean, it's a very simple change, I feel, that we're making, in that we have the nucleus of a committee system now, in that if we abolish the Cabinet Resources Committee and the Scrutiny Committees and replace them by service committees, that is a comparatively simple thing to do. But we do have the wording of the council motion was that we were required to work up a scheme that could work, and then that decision will be going back to full council to be made in time for it to be adopted at the next annual meeting. It wasn't possible to do it at this last annual meeting because there was a lot of work going on the Constitution, and it would have led to officer paranoia, I suppose would be one word, or it wouldn't have been possible to do it. It is possible for the next annual meeting. I think it does need to be made simpler. There's a lot of language in this report that has had my red pen go through it already, and there is more in here that tends to make it more complicated. I mean, I accept the director's point that there is a cost to doing this, and that should be brought out into the public domain, and it has been, and perhaps we've been remiss in the past in not doing so. But the whole timetable needs to be truncated so that we can make a decision at the January council meeting, because after that, frankly, it would be very hard to get us to agree on anything, as we're in the run-up to the election and we'll be otherwise preoccupied. And so I mean, there are one or two alterations to this document that I would propose. Number one is that I think the recommendations need to be changed, but we note this report rather than anything else as we go through. Then I'm afraid I've got suggested alterations on page 8. There's a section here, day-to-day administration and operation of business should properly be the responsibility of officers. I don't think that's correct. It remains the responsibility of members, so I'd like that point taken out. I think each committee should be concerned with matters that can only be dealt with at member level. I don't like that point either. I think that should be taken out. I think on the following page, the first two items need to come out. There's no need to go back to full council simply because we have an instruction from full council that we need to carry out. I think the whole thing needs to be truncated so it's finished by the 21st of January 2014. And then moving on to page 10, there's something, document ward leadership programme to support members. I have no idea what that is. I don't understand the point 11, improved opportunities for ward leadership and engagement for members with their residents and relevant local community groups through review of residents' forums. Well, I accept that the residents' forums need careful attention, but I think that can be put in rather simple terms and is subject to a separate detail that we need to talk about. I mean, basically, I think Councillor Kane is quite right. We just need to do this and treat it as a simple exercise and come up with goods as we were asked to do by the full council.
So you're removing those amendments?
Yes, basically.
And the council gets a chance to scan the second amendments? Yes. Yes. You decided between
I mean, I think I agree with that. I think most of what Councillor Cornelius said there. I think the motion that was taken at Council in January should have been a clear commitment to move to the cabinet system. Instead, it was
from
to the cabinet. Move to a committee system. Instead of putting in all the political rubbish about regressing the decision, of the previous administration, it should have been a clear-cut commitment to move to committee structure. I'm glad the timetable is being changed because I've had concerns about the timetable as well. I mean, we've lost quite a few months since we did this, since I came to council in January. 6 months has moved on, and we don't have any proposals. I've also got a concern about the costs. I think £100,000 is a lot of money in the current climate to be looking at reorganising internal council structures. We do need to make this simpler. It shouldn't cost £100,000. I think members of the public would find it hard to understand why we were proposing to spend £100,000 on an internal council reorganisation, in the current economic climate. There was talk about, was talking about changing culture, not structures. I mean, I think what we're talking about here is a change in structure. A change in culture you can't enforce through motions or anything that we discuss here. I think that requires, the current administration to change their attitude rather than anything we can do through this change.
My concern with I don't say going back to a committee system, because it may be going forward a different one, but lots of people think about going back to a committee system. My concern with that has always been that we're sort of throwing the lady out with bathwater. The scrutiny system that we have at present has never really worked effectively in terms of scrutiny, in terms of people being able to express their views and getting any influence on decisions. So I'd like to see, and I hope the working party will be looking thoroughly at this being able to incorporate a system of scrutiny into the committee system somehow. Having said that, that does involve extra officer time as well. Alan's talked about the 100,000, 98,000 just to set up this system. There's nowhere here mentioned about the extra officer time that may be needed afterwards.
The whole system was looked at holistically to make sure that the cost is neutral. That is
That's as maybe that may be that there are fewer committees that are not able to take as many executive decisions than they wish to, in which case we may be getting a lot more delegated powers officers decisions than we would like to see. All this needs to be looked at thoroughly to make sure that it is as members would wish it to be. And again, yes, I like the system being truncated so quickly and to come to a decision and get the proper system in place. It needs to be decided by January. However, with that, there needs to be time for a proper consultation. On the timetable here, the consultation again is over the summer. And if we're truncating the whole system, are we going to be truncating the consultation? There needs to be a thorough public consultation and engagement with this. Alan's right, you know, a lot of members of the public may not give a jot what kind of system you have for making our decisions. But people here do, clearly, and there will be others as well. But there needs to be, make sure that it's time for really effective consultation.
Actually, I'm in danger of agreeing with everybody. It's a bit worrying, really. I take Councillor Schneiderman's point about the cost, but of course the cost would be there. It's just being made brutally apparent in that the officers are employed by the council, and if they won't do this, they'll probably be doing something else. So you use the word spend. I don't think it's spend, it's a cost, but it is a cost there in the background, and we should be mindful of that. And Ms. Walter has indicated that other reports will come through in the future with similar costs expressed. And I think it is part of the discipline. I mean, you mentioned the culture. I think the culture, if we change to this committee system, the culture then is in the hands of all members, in that they can engage or not engage in the committees as they see fit. However, they will be engaged, and the opposition will be very much engaged in that there will be unpopular decisions that have to be made, and it won't be possible to shy away from them by anybody. We will have to be very public about what we're doing. In an era of cost cutting, it's not going to be fun for the opposition, this system, and it is something that I think will be a step forward and will improve the way that we operate within the council.
Can I just ask you suggested an amendment to the recommendation. How did you actually say what the recommendation was? I think you said that we note the report. Is that
well, I did suggest that we just note the report rather than make detailed comments on it or endorse the business cases basis for future work. But in fact, of course, we are doing just that. I mean, we are commenting now, and a solution will emerge as we follow through with the council resolution.
Just the recommendation was we had the report.
Yeah.
Well, I think we need a bit more than that.
Okay.
The note report,
So tell me what you want.
adopt what's in the report. I mean, the committee notes the report and endorses the comments of the leader of the council in terms of truncating the timetable. And I think there's something else really sensible.
So taking out
various.
I think that's a recommendation because the final report will be the final report. In other words, all these amendments will have been made by the time we go to council. We're not endorsing it, we're agreeing it now. So when it comes to council, it will have a truncated timetable and whatever else we review. So I don't think there's any merit in saying no report and also the comments of the leadership, they will have been incorporated. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, the leader has proposed two substantial changes about officer-member relationship. And in fact, it is suggesting at least two that I recall. Which is a move we all should welcome, but ensure that it's actually implemented, not just left hanging in the air.
what, you still haven't told me what you want to...
Well, I think the comments that have been made, we want to be, noted as...
Sorry, through you, Chairman, the comments will be noted through the actions from the committee, so all of on the existing points will be noted in the comments and be recorded in the minutes.
I think what I'm trying to say, but it seems to convince anybody. The recommendation we note the report. And then it will be, give me something, I've asked it 3 times already.
No, that's all right.
Right.
Well, give you 10 minutes to think about it. So I don't get paid for it.
Well, you've made the recommendation. Now tell me what you want.
I had the leader come up with some
What he said, let me tell you what the leader said.
You can't note a report, you can't note it now because there's 2 substantive bullet points he's actually have to remove.
Yes, and that
So
the report that will be noted will be minus those 2. On page 8, delete the last 2
Yes.
bullet points there, so that's coming out.
Yeah.
The timetable will be truncated, the first 2 items will be deleted,
Yeah.
and the last 2 on page 9 will be deleted.
Yeah.
And the cut-off date will be the 21st of January 2014. There will be a meeting of the Constitutional Ethics and Security Committee prior to that date to agree it before it goes to Council. Page 11, he suggested the deletion of the last bullet point. Page 10. Page 10. Sorry,
Which page?
2 page numbers.
There's 2 page numbers. It's not right. Take the points. Yes, sorry, page 10 on the right-hand side. Sorry about that. You're quite right. It's not very helpful. So if we make sure we keep on page 11. Documented board leadership programs. That last bullet point is deleted. Page 11, the last bullet point is deleted as well. I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see, Chairman, you didn't need me. You do it all on your own.
I do need that.
Do we need to formally note the date when you're seeing this, that it should be completed for vote of full council on the 21st of January?
Yes. I think that should go to recommendation that we note the report and require everything to be done so it can go to full council on the 21st of 2014. Yes.
I mean, Councillor Farrier referred to consultation, which I know we're truncating the timetable.
Yes.
Consultations currently, due to take place during the summer, which I don't think is suitable. I would recommend that there is a specific opportunity for the public to engage in this in advance of the 21st of October, when a lot of the decisions are going to be taken.
So what we're planning to do is also put in another Constitution Ethics and Probity Committee in January, just before the full council meeting, to ensure that the consultation is wrapped up within there. So it won't be coming to, so it will come back in January.
No, I mean, I think January is, that's right before the council meeting will actually be adopting it. I mean, we need, if decisions are going to be made on the 21st of October, there needs to be a meeting, prior to that.
But also,
where,
on page 9, it also talks about having 2 phases around the options and then acceptability. So there could be potentially 2 phases of the consultation. So I think we need to put another meeting in January, because you will have various options that you might want to go out to consultation on, and then you might have the final option.
sorry, just clarify, are we talking about this actually coming to council meeting in January to be adopted under the new right? So therefore we can't do any consultation in January if we're hoping
No,
to
I'm
adopt
saying
the new
that
system.
we're still going to be having the consultation period as noted, but there needs to be another Constitution Ethics and Probity Committee just before the council. Because there'll be a lot of work, other work going out until January.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I think there should be there needs to be an earlier meeting of this committee, so with specific time for members to have members of the public to have a greater engagement. I don't know exactly when that will be, but it needs to be before, substantial decisions are being taken.
It's not very enormous.
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be very valuable if we could have an early consultation in general terms so that we understand what the public actually are interested in, so that we can frame our proposals in those terms. Whether we then need a second period of consultation, I'm a little uncertain. I mean, it sounds like an inordinate delaying factor given that time is short. And it's not practical to have a consultation in the run-up to an election. It's just not possible to do that, I don't think. So I would like to see one consultation. I like the idea that it runs from August to October. I think it's really quite a long run, isn't it? It can't be started any sooner than that, and it really has to finish by then. And then whether we've got proposals ready by I don't know. I'm not sure when the next Constitution Review Committee meetings, the schedule was.
October and February.
So I'm sure this matter will come up then and be discussed at both of those meetings.
Well, we can discuss it certainly in October and February as well as an opportunity.
I don't see why there's a need to report to Council on the 10th of November either, and it seems inappropriate to do it on Garfield's Day as well.
It's just in the timetable to know just when the full council is rather than...
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, can this timetable be thought about, and really, if we just set the end date of the 21st of Jan with plenty of consultation therein, and whether we have to have an extra meeting of this committee in the autumn.
So you're suggesting that the timetable come out completely and just have a general members agree that. Yeah.
So we've taken out the ratification decisions at the full council on the 16th of July, and then we'll surely the consultation will start before then. We're not waiting until council meeting to start the consultation. You could have started the consultation before then. In terms of here it being nearly 3 months, I don't think it is, because I don't think it's going to go right up to 21st October. We'll have to finish probably in September in order to get the analysed and be ready for the 21st October. So if we could start it before the end of July, certainly, in the next couple of weeks, we've then got a good 2 months alert because of summer.
Well, I think it's a good idea to start it sooner because members of the public may come up with some idea that we haven't even thought about, which would be helpful.
As soon as possible.
What form of consultation is to take?
Social media, citizens panel, Barnet first.
Public meetings?
Goes to every public meetings indeed, if you wish. That can be arranged.
It's quite a new rule, isn't it?
Is it?
Public meeting between the
3 people, cup of tea.
Yeah, but we have a public meeting and it's been done before on major.
I think I made the
So I'm suggesting that we just don't compartmentalise it, don't enshrine it in compartments and just say commence all necessary work immediately with a view to bringing the final results to the 21st of January 2014 council meeting. Is that acceptable?
I mean that's acceptable with a timely public meeting and time to have an actual input into the process. So
Yeah, well, I've already said that.
This was today, it was on place, on the state.
Okay, so we'll do that, so if you can make a note and just take that out and just do what I said, that basically processes will start immediately with a view to bringing a final decision to the 21st of January 2014 meeting to include an early public meeting to discuss matters. Yeah? Agreed? Let's do the minutes.